Have you ever wondered what it is that, some PhD students do the degrees in like 3 to 4 years, publish papers, and go through the whole process really kind of painlessly, right? And then there is another group of PhD students who kind of take, 5, 6, or more years, and they really struggle along the way. They struggle with the writing, they find the whole process really, psychologically challenging as well. So have you ever wondered, what it is that, there is this one group that really succeeds, does the PhD in time, publishes papers, with, not little effort, with a lot of effort, but relatively painlessly, right? And there's this other group that really struggles and suffers and takes a very long time and sometimes doesn't manage to publish any research papers. So in this video, I wanted to talk about, the three reasons, three factors that make, the first group of PhD students succeed and the second group fail. So, I'm going to show you, the three secrets really to succeeding as a PhD student. So let's dive right into it. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Marek Kiczkowiak and I run Academic English Now, where I help PhD students write excellent theses and research papers and really accelerate the PhD progress so they can achieve their dreams and feel satisfied and proud of the work. So, for the last couple of months, really, you might have noticed that I haven't really recorded any videos here on this channel. And the main reason is that, I've been really busy helping the PhD students that I work with through my program, PhD Accelerator, help them succeed. And, looking at those, hundreds of PhD students that I've been working with, I've started noticing, what it is that there are some, all of them get the same information, but there are some who do exceptionally well and others who do less well. And I've noticed this same trend, with other PhD students that I know. There are just some who like really succeed and do really well and others do not do so well. So what is it, and a lot of people have asked me about it, like, if you could boil it down to three things, well, what are those three things that help PhD students succeed? So I think the first one is right here, and that's the mindset. That's, something that is frequently overlooked, but it's the most important thing when it comes to succeeding with your PhD. And, so a successful PhD student, first of all, never gives up, and and they are persistent. Like, in fact, the most successful PhD students, like when they come against an obstacle, not only do they not give up, but they're also excited about this obstacle. They wanna, they treat it as an interesting challenge, something to overcome, right? So really, the first really important component is your mindset, is not giving up, is not comparing yourself to other people, is, developing a positive mindset, developing persistence, that, because it's going to take years to complete your PhD. So you've got to be persistent. You've got to go out there every single day, day in, day out, whether you like it, whether you feel like it or not, it doesn't matter. The most successful PhD students that I've seen, they get up every morning, and whether they feel happy or unhappy, that's irrelevant. They just get up, they know what they have to do because they've planned everything accordingly, and they do it. They execute the daily actions, and they do the same the next day, and the day after, and the day after, and the day after. And when challenges arrive, they don't give up. They don't curl into a ball and cry. They see the challenge as something they will overcome, and they prepare a plan to tackle this challenge, and then they go about executing that plan to overcome this challenge, and then they move on. So really, the first secret to succeeding with your PhD is right here, and that's the mindset. Number two, I think the second really important element is feedback. And in here, I mean two things. I mean receiving regular, ongoing feedback on your work, and number two, acting on that feedback. So the problems that I often see is that, for example, a lot of PhD students don't receive regular feedback. When people come to work with me, they say things like, oh, my supervisor is really busy. I rarely receive any kind of constructive feedback, or when the feedback comes is kind of like very vague, but doesn't really explain, how to correct things. So that's a problem, because if you don't receive any sort of corrections with meaningful explanations how to actually go about correcting your work, then it will be very difficult yourself to improve, right? So that's the first thing. But then there is also the second issue that, a lot of PhD students treat their work very personally. It's very dear to them, and I completely understand it. I was a PhD student myself, and your PhD work is like your little baby, isn't it? It's something that you've been working at for a very long time, and whenever somebody criticizes it, people get very defensive. Sometimes they get offended, and that's a problem, because then PhD students don't act on that feedback. So to give you a specific example, one of the main reasons why I think, I did my PhD in 3 years, managed to publish papers during that time, all while working at the university teaching English as well, was that, I didn't argue with my supervisor's feedback every time I received feedback. I acknowledged it, I treated it as a lesson, I took it on board, and I reworked my thesis exactly how my supervisor told me to rework it. On the other hand, there were those other PhD students in my department who kind of argued with every other thing that their supervisor said. So the supervisor gave them advice to, on a particular aspect of the writing, and the PhD students argued with that because they thought they knew better, right? So that's another problem. You've got to get feedback, acknowledge it, and then act on it. Like if you don't act on your feedback and you expect different results, that's insanity. The definition of insanity is basically doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? So you've got to, first of all, get that feedback, but you must act on it. Don't treat it as a kind of personal offense to yourself. Treat it as an opportunity to improve and just do it. Don't argue with every single piece of feedback that you receive. Just do it. So that's the second element to success, feedback. Now, the third element to success is writing. And by that, I mean, again, two things. The first thing is that you actually have to write. So what I see, there is this kind of delusion that a lot of PhD students suffer from, and this delusion is that, oh, I don't need to start writing until a later date. Or I'm going to start writing once I've read enough. Or I'm going to start writing when my results are in. I can't write anything right now because I don't have my results yet, right? And this is, this is absolute nonsense. And what this leads to is a situation where a lot of PhD students get into like the second or third year of the PhD, and they've written hardly anything. And number two, they haven't improved their skills because they haven't been writing anything. So they're in a situation where they have to write a ton, but they don't know how to do this, and they have nothing written yet, right? So you have to write. Don't fall in this, writing delusion that you will have time later, or that you need to wait until you finish your results to write the literature review or methodology or whatever else, right? You have to be writing. And number two, within that writing aspect, you have to kind of understand how to develop your research ideas logically and how to express them using appropriate academic language. And I think the problem with, a lot of academic writing courses for PhD students that I see out there, either at universities or run by private companies, is that they only focus on this kind of language aspect and a little bit on the structure aspect, right? But that's just one tiny part of success, being able to express your research ideas logically and in appropriate academic language. Of course, you have to be able to do that, but it's kind of the tip of the iceberg, because sometimes, I've also seen a lot of PhD students who come to work with me, and to be honest, the writing is kind of fine, maybe it's not yet publication level, but it's good. You know, the writing is good, but they don't have the PhD success mindset, and they also, for example, haven't been getting enough feedback or acting on that feedback, right? And they also haven't been writing enough, so they don't really have much to show, which causes, a lot of stress and frustration and everything. So really, if you've been wondering what it is about some PhD students that makes them really successful and others, that causes them to fail and to suffer during their journey, is this three things. It's mindset, it's feedback, and it's writing, right? And if if you want to learn more about each of these aspects, then let me know in the comments section, and you can also we can schedule a one-to-one strategy session to see exactly what the problems are that you're suffering from, and what you want to achieve, and then discuss whether that's something that I can help you with. So thanks a lot. I hope that you found this video valuable, and let me know in the comments section.